He invited two women over for an after-party, the harrowing murder of Chris Dickerson. Okay, picture this. A guy hosts an after-party with two women he just met. Pretty normal, right? But by the next morning, he's found dead in his own bathroom, beaten, bound, and completely lifeless. Now here's where it gets even crazier. These women didn't just vanish, they left clues behind, the kind that practically screamed this wasn't their first time. And trust me, what the cops uncovered next, it blew this whole thing wide open. This isn't some random break-in or bad luck, this was planned, down to the minute, and the only reason we even know the truth is because of a camera across the street and one friend who refused to ignore his gut feeling. Stay with me, because it gets darker, messier, and more disturbing the deeper you go. This is the story of Chris Dickerson, and how a night of celebration turned into a scene straight out of a nightmare. Chris Dickerson wasn't a name you'd see in the headlines, at least not until his death. He was 34, worked in real estate, and lived in a decent neighborhood in Charlotte, North Carolina. Friends described him as warm, funny, and always down to throw a small get-together. He loved music, Sunday football, and had a laugh that made people turn heads at the bar. To put it simply, Chris was that guy everyone liked having around. So when people heard what happened to him, no one could believe it. It was a Friday night in late June. Chris had just closed on a big property deal, a win worth celebrating. He hit up a local lounge downtown just planning to grab a drink or two. That's where he met them. Two women, early 30s, dressed sharp, laughing, sipping cocktails. They introduced themselves as Kayla and Tasha. Said they were new in town, looking for good vibes and a place to hang after hours. Chris, being the social guy he was, offered to host a small after-party at his place. By 1 o'clock in the morning, the three were back at his home. Fast forward to 10:45 a.m. the next morning. A friend of Chris's, Marcus, was dropping by to pick up a set of keys Chris had borrowed. He rang the bell. Nothing. He called, straight to voicemail. Something felt off. So Marcus used the spare key Chris had given him a while back. What he walked into was something out of a horror movie. Furniture overturned, a wine glass shattered on the floor, stains, some red on the carpet, and the bathroom door half closed. He pushed it open. There was Chris, hands tied behind his back, a deep gash on his head, no signs of life. Above him, scrawled in red lipstick on the mirror, were 4 chilling words. He got what's his. The investigation. Police were on the scene within minutes. They locked down the house, swept for prints, and began questioning neighbors. It didn't take long before one mentioned seeing 2 women leaving the house in the early morning. They looked calm, almost casual. One even waved at a neighbor's dog. But the biggest break came from the neighbor across the street, who had a motion-activated camera on their porch. At 2:17 a.m., 2 women were seen leaving Chris's house with large tote bags. Their faces, caught clear as day.
Police, open up!
The footage was released to the media, and tips poured in. Within 24 hours, detectives identified the women, Kayla Reed and Tasha Bennett. Both had records. Kayla had 2 priors for fraud and 1 for grand theft. Tasha had been arrested for assault 2 years earlier, charges later dropped. It turned out this wasn't some wild night gone wrong. This was a setup. Police discovered text messages between Kayla and Tasha that painted a dark picture. 2 days before the murder, Kayla texted, "He's flashy. We can clean up big." Tasha replied, "In and out. No mess." But clearly, it didn't go as clean as they planned. Investigators believe the plan was simple. Get invited over, drug Chris, steal anything valuable, and disappear. But when Chris either fought back or never went unconscious, it turned violent. Forensics showed bruises consistent with restraint, defensive wounds on Chris's arms, and no signs of the drug they planned to use in his system. He fought, and they responded with cruelty. The arrest and trial. Authorities launched a multi-state manhunt. The women were believed to be heading south. Kayla was caught first, boarding a Greyhound bus in Atlanta. She was carrying Chris's credit cards, a small amount of cash, and a pair of his designer sunglasses. Tasha was arrested 2 days later at a relative's home in Savannah. Neither resisted. Kayla spoke first. She claimed it wasn't supposed to go that far. Tasha stayed quiet, but the evidence was overwhelming. Fingerprints, DNA, text logs, surveillance. Case closed. In court, Chris's family sat in the front row every day. His sister Vanessa delivered a powerful testimony about who Chris was, how he never judged, always gave people the benefit of the doubt. She broke down describing how her little brother died alone, scared in a place he thought was safe. The prosecution painted Kayla and Tasha as predators, opportunists who picked their target, plotted their move, and executed it without remorse. The defense tried to argue it was a robbery gone wrong, but the lipstick message? That was the nail in the coffin. Both women were sentenced to life in prison without parole. Reflection and conclusion. The case made national headlines. Social media lit up. Some people blamed Chris for letting strangers into his home. Others pushed back, saying the focus should be on the women who manipulated and murdered him, not on the victim's hospitality. The truth? It was a reminder that sometimes evil doesn't come with a warning, it shows up smiling. Psychologists later analyzed the case, pointing out a behavioral pattern known as social engineering, where criminals use charm, flirtation, or sympathy to gain access to victims. Kayla and Tasha had done this before, not to this extent, but they knew the game. Chris didn't, and that made him vulnerable. What happened to Chris Dickerson wasn't just tragic. It was cruel, but it also forced a lot of people to reconsider how easily we let people into our lives, especially when our guard is down. So now I want to ask you, what would you have done in Chris's place? Have you ever had a bad feeling about someone, but ignored it? Let's talk about it in the comments. And if you're fascinated by true crime, unsolved mysteries, and psychological twists, subscribe to Unsolved Case Vault and don't forget to hit that like button.